Ram tough. USC goes the NFL route to bring in more enforcements to ready for the Big Ten, to develop in the trenches and develop for the NFL. Welcome to Trojan Conquest live right here at the Voice of College Football. We come your way each and every Monday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time. We've got Matt Zemek here, of course, Tim Prangley, both of Trojan's Wire. We are glad to say. And it's been a big news week at USC, Matt, as we're speaking of Eric Henderson, defensive line coach with the Los Angeles Rams. Several stops all over the NFL, college football, played at Georgia Tech, and will also be a co-defensive coordinator with D'Anton Lynn.
Yeah, so, first off, got to credit Tim here because, he brought this to my attention last week via Fight on Rusty. That these were the whisperings and stirrings in the back channels and the pipeline. So notch one for Tim, and gonna bring his insider excellence to Trojan's Wire, which I'm so thrilled about. But what can you say? Another rock star hire on this defensive staff, and it kicks over Sean Nua to defensive ends. So he's just going to be able to focus on improving USC's outside pass rushing quality. So Nua was the one guy. We agreed if there was one guy who deserved to be retained from the 2023 staff, it was Nua, because you look at what he did with Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan, and you look at what he did with Bear Alexander. He can develop players into stars, and he can get people to the NFL, and that's exactly what players are looking for. So Nua, merited retention, and yet you get an even better defensive line coach, and Nua has a more specialized role. I think it's a perfect alignment. And Tim, you can cover your ears right now, all right? But if with the Eagles getting crushed, Sirianni's job, I think, is in play. It is not certain that Sirianni's going to keep his job. If he gets fired, that's another NFL opening for Mike Macdonald of the Ravens. And if Mike Macdonald flies the coop in Baltimore, D'Anton Lynn could be the new Ravens defensive coordinator. So this move with Eric Henderson, it's yet another insurance policy in the event that D'Anton Lynn goes to Baltimore to fill a Mike Macdonald vacancy under John Harbaugh. So you also have that component in play. And then the other thing with the defensive staff, there's only one question left, and that is Taylor Mays going to be retained? And Chris Trevino of 247 Sports, I asked him on Twitter, direct question, what's his status? Trevino said he didn't know. There was nothing official. He guessed that he'd probably be retained as an analyst unless he got an offer he couldn't refuse from another program. And that's what USC fans have to worry about. Will another program still trying to fill out its coaching staff make an offer to Taylor Mays to be their secondary coach? Probably not defensive coordinator. Taylor Mays probably needs to just graduate to being a position coach before he gets the keys to a coordinator job. But it's probably not going to be too far in the future for him, given his talent and acumen as a coach. Boy, if USC can retain Taylor Mays on staff, man, you just have everything lined up as well as you possibly could have hoped for, and really far beyond anyone's expectations. Tim's Mr. Sunshine. He's the optimist. I'm a little bit more pessimistic. Tim, could you have imagined on November 18th, when we just were licking our wounds from the UCLA debacle, that this defensive staff would be this good at so many different positions? It would be so well-rounded? I don't think so, right?
Well, you want to bring the optimists out. I mean, you remember this was a really good tweet from Ryan Young. This is right. This is when things were really at the lowest. We're thinking this is gonna be the year, and things just didn't happen. And he said, it sucks right now. It hurts right now, right? But he said, but you pissed them off. I mean, I think he was called out. He took it freaking personally. Riley, good offense coordinator, not really a head coach. He goes, okay, all right. I almost said an expletive. All right, I'll show you guys. I'll show you head coaching. And he said, I'm going to make sure that I produce an elite defense. Because you guys, we've been hearing, going back to like the Lane Kiffin, Sarkisian, and some of the quarterbacks. We always had quarterbacks in amazing. Look at the NFL right now. Look at guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, shredding. You want to ice a game, throw it to the sun god. I put that tweet out. Just get that ball to him. So many key third downs. We'll talk about that later if you want to. But it's all been offense lately. Growing up for me, it was like, it was like the Junior Seaus, right? The Tim Ryans, these incredible 89 defense that they had, 88 defense they had. And then going into the 2003, 2004, not as much 2005, but then 2008 defense. USC, going back in my dad in the McKay years, has been known for big, nasty defenses. And we've kind of gone away from that, right? Lost our way. Pissing off Riley, telling him he's a bad head coach. Thank you. Sometimes you just need a season like last year to just wipe out all the crap and start fresh. You saw, when I'm not gonna say his name, but some coaches, when they have a really bad season, like one coach for the Irish had back in, what was it, 16 or so, I can't remember. And he just dumps his entire staff, right? And they come back a little bit stronger with some pretty good offensive lines. Big changes happen. We've been saying with Riley, he's a great offensive mind. Well, now you stick it with a great defensive mind, and you put Belk behind him, put Entz behind him, and now Henderson. It's going to be something special, and I'm glad we're going to be able to see it because we're going to need it moving into the Big Ten.
Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We are here each and every Monday for you. Matt and Tim are available each and every day at Trojan's Wire. So check out their work. And also, Matt and I got together this week to knock out some Pete Carroll related material with, of course, 3 big segments. They're coming your way. At this point, I think they're all posted. I kind of spaced them out in regards to release, but I think at this point, all released, all posted. And we're talking about, Matt, I don't know about you. I had a whole lot of fun posting those segments and having those conversations about Pete Carroll and the connections with Nick Saban. And of course, Bill Belichick with the 3 legends retiring all this week.
Loads of fun. And, digging into the vault, looking back at college football history, it reminds us about changes in the sport over time. And that's always helpful in terms of not just being nostalgic, but being able to look at today and measure today compared to past eras and just how much really did or didn't change. Like, that's one of the takeaways I always get from my conversations with you in our bonus cuts here at the Voice of College Football. So yeah, if you're a member of the USC channel at the middle or top tiers, you just got 3 extra bonus segments. And if you're not a member at the middle or top tiers, there's now a library of, I believe, it might be off by 1. I think we have 13 bonus cuts now. We had 10, now we have 13. So that's more bang for your buck. And of course, it's the off season. So Mark and I are going to be accumulating more and more of these bonus segments as we go along here at the Voice of College Football.
And also, just really quickly, if we could, we are now very close to our goal of 5,000. We're within 100. So literally, if everyone here subscribed, I know some of you guys already subscribed, but let's just say if we had 100 people subscribe right now, we would hit that big goal of ours to get the 5,000 subscriptions. So if you guys do have a minute, please, we love you guys being here. But if you could just help us out by hitting that subscribe button, that way when we go live we go at least twice a week, Mondays and Friday nights. We're here live for you, giving you guys USC content. So, and then also we're dropping new videos, hopefully trying to do new videos every single day. So if you want USC content every single day, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when we do go live.
Have we tapped out on the defensive side, or do we want to go in other directions here? We've got Caleb Williams, of course, making what was an obvious announcement, declaring for the NFL draft and his draft prospectus. And old friend Mario Williams has found a home as well.
I'll do some more Henderson stuff, but we can come back if you want to. We can circle back to it. Want to move on to Caleb?
Let's tackle Henderson. Tim,
yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
No, you go ahead. You have more content.
So the big thing that I really wanted to stress to people is we're hearing, he's a great, he's an NFL guy, but can he recruit, right? Like everyone's been trying to tell you, sure, NIL is a great thing. Everyone wants NIL, but at the end of the day, really what it's all about is these kids want to know they're going to develop and go to the NFL. I mean, that's just really the key factor for these families, for their coaches or handlers, where, these days there's so many people involved, right? That's the key, is they want to know. NIL's fun and it's great. I mean, if you have the penthouse like you're seeing with Caleb Williams, as we're moving into his section in a minute, and that's beautiful to have. But the real money is going to be in that guaranteed money, that first round draft pick, that second contract in the NFL where the real money starts rolling in. That's where these kids want to go. And when you have a guy that has coached, in the NFL, he was assistant defensive line coach with Joey Bosa when Joey Bosa set his record for most sacks in the season that he had. Now he moved on here to the Rams and he's coaching, the Rams defensive line. He's also the run game coordinator. You get to see him coaching up Aaron Donald. These are guys. This is big hitters, and he was named coach of the defensive line coach of the year. I wasn't familiar with the trophy. Matt, you might be able to fill me in on it, but he won, and voted on by his peers. So basically, in NFL, he was voted right the NFL defensive line coach of the year by his peers.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing he could walk into a living room. Right, he's from Louisiana. He plays ball at Georgia Tech, so he's in Atlanta, right? He rolls into Atlanta. He's from Louisiana. He's going to he'll feel comfortable in every single living room he walks into. These blue chip 5-star guys that we all been crying and really want to bring in. He's like, well, when I was showing Aaron this technique and Joey really liked what we did, so he's going to be throwing this stuff in living rooms. And the fact that he can also just hang that little star, that I'm not saying how good I am. These are what all my peers said, that I'm the best defensive line coach in the NFL, not in college football, in the NFL. That is one hell of a tag to put on yourself when you go on the road, you're recruiting, when you're trying to bring in these 5-star big guys. We've been okay in the portal, but in high school, we just have not been able to do it. I think this might be the guy to help us out. Even though he doesn't have a lot of experience, he has the panache, right? He has everything you need to walk in and wow a family. So, your thoughts on that, you guys?
And I would just point out a couple things. One is that, being extremely successful in the NFL, like that's a statement in itself. But he's been successful in the NFL in Los Angeles. So like he's a known quantity in and around Southern California. Like people are paying attention to him and who he is and what he does. So like in terms of forging connections with local coaches, like that should not be particularly hard for him to do. So like it's not as though he coached the Green Bay Packers, defensive line. And I mean, he still would have been an excellent defensive line coach if he had the same achievements in the NFL. But doing it in Los Angeles, local people are going to know about him. So there's that point. The other point is, this is a hire being made in mid-January, and it does reinforce another thing about Lincoln Riley and how he's gone about building his defensive staff. He was willing to take the time to get the right guys at the right spots. These changes with like Roy Manning, leaving recently, all of this did not happen instantly. And USC's season ended earlier on November 18th, not on Thanksgiving weekend, the way most team seasons did. So, there was the thought process. I certainly talked about it at the time here at the Voice of College Football, that USC had a chance to maybe get a head start on other competitors in terms of hiring a staff and making changes. Lincoln Riley did it exactly the opposite, but it's not a negative, because look at the quality. Look at the quality he has assembled on this defensive staff. If it meant, not getting as many portal prospects in December, if it meant not being quite as successful in the early signing period, well, this is the trade-off. You're getting such elite coaching, such considerable competence. So all of this extra time that Lincoln Riley took to get the right guys, the right fits on his staff, it now means that, if you sacrificed a little bit in terms of recruiting in the portal in December, it puts extra emphasis on that spring portal window in a few months. And hopefully with the credentials and the quality of this defensive staff and what Tim just talked about with Henderson Hey, I worked with Aaron Donald, and this is how I helped him remain at the top of his game. Should be able to help with a defensive line prospect or four in the portal in the spring. So USC's really set itself up for a big splash in the spring portal window, and that's exactly what the Trojans need, loading up front, and they've put themselves in better position to do it. And one final extra note, I thought about two things, but actually there's a third. The third is that with Roy Manning, I've seen some people in the chat say, yeah, I wish he would have stayed because of his recruiting prowess. Hey, remember, a lot of USC fans, and I'm not even referring to people in the chat, I'm just referring generally, a lot of USC fans held on to the idea for a long time that Dante Williams needed to stay because of his recruiting chops. And we learned in 2023, actually, he wasn't worth staying on because the quality of his coaching was so poor. And we saw how much better Taylor Mays was in terms of coaching technique, coaching tackling, coaching assignments in the secondary in the Holiday Bowl. We saw the Grand Canyon-sized gulf between Dante Williams and Taylor Mays. So no, actually, it wasn't worth keeping Dante Williams on staff, no matter how many splashy recruits he brought in, because once those recruits got brought in, they weren't coached up well. And obviously, Alex Grinch had a lot to do with that as well. But I bring up Roy Manning because he's really in that same boat. And if you talk to people at Oklahoma, and remember, we did our Riley Files series in the summer of 2022. So I talked for 4 hours with an Oklahoma insider, getting his insights on, on Lincoln Riley's, what he perceived to be, the guest that we had on, Keegan Renault, who is a football analyst. Keegan told us that Alex Grinch was loyal to a lot of guys that he probably shouldn't be loyal to, and Roy Manning was one of them. Not just that, it wasn't just Grinch, it was Roy Manning was another guy that Oklahoma insiders, they will tell you he was more part of the problem than any form of solution at Oklahoma. And again, I don't delight in saying this, because Oklahoma fans being right on various levels, on various topics about Lincoln Riley meant USC had a bad season this past year. I wish that didn't happen. So I'm taking no joy in saying this, but Oklahoma fans were right about Roy Manning. And so it's another good addition by subtraction plot point with this staff. So you get Grinch out, you get Dante Williams out. We saw the value of those two departures in the Holiday Bowl, and now Roy Manning should be more addition by subtraction, and then you get Eric Henderson coming in. And this is the really exciting part for USC and its fans entering 2024. Not only has USC gained this amazing rock star defensive staff, but 3 problem people on last year's defensive staff all gone. So you're getting the benefit of additions and you're getting the benefit of subtractions all at once. And hopefully the exponential effect of all those changes, the ones going in, the ones going out, are just going to multiply the production of this defense by a factor that we can't even appreciate yet. That has me very excited and optimistic for 2024.
So I wonder, I'm as always, I'm right there with Matt to a degree, but then I always kind of decide I veer off a little from Matt. I think that the thing with Manning was more of you had a decision to make. Are you going to keep Sean Nua or are you going to keep Roy Manning? I don't think Roy Manning was really a problem. You talk about a guy. Yes, I know. Oh, it's not all about recruiting, but it is a lot about recruiting. And if we look at one position that that did well, I didn't have a lot of negative things to say. They did seem to drop off production wise as far as the rush end positions, but as far as bringing in the talent, you're talking about a guy that brought in Cameron Fountain this year, right? He's absolutely just, you watch that All-Star game and you watch his tape, just blows things up. But also, the biggest thing I can't wait to see this year when it comes to defense, at all, it's going to be the way that these guys, take the leap from last year to this year, those young guys. And I don't know if Roy Manning was the issue. I mean, I'll defer. I was one of those guys that said, I really like the fact that we're keeping well, I'll leave that for a second, but I like the fact that they are making the changes. The one thing I am concerned about is young guys and going forward. Are we going to be able to get that recruiting with Sean Newell? Because Sean Newell wasn't exactly lighting up in recruiting, though. That's the one thing I am going to say. So I'm hoping that is when we're going in for recruiting in the rush end position, that we're going to have Henderson also moving in and do stuff, because I think that Newell was having difficulty recruiting his guys for the team. So that's all I have.
My response would simply be, hey, Domani Jackson, Tackett Curtis, two recruits who met with rave reviews. Like, wow, there was just so much excitement attached to those and also other recruits. Look at Corey Foreman as another example. Obviously, that was before Lincoln Riley, but the caliber of recruit, it matters in terms of stacking depth on a roster and having volume. Like, you generally win national titles by stacking 4 and 5 stars, by stacking blue chip recruits. But the obvious counterbalance is that you have to have the elite coaching, which makes it all happen. And so if you're bringing in elite recruits, but you can't coach them and you can't develop them, it doesn't really matter. And so, it just, in terms of that eternal balance between quality of coaching and quality of recruiting, you have to have the caliber of coaching that makes your recruiting acumen worthwhile. And I don't think, based on what we saw last season with the USC defense, Sean Newell is the only guy, because of Bear Alexander and how good he was and on a consistent basis. Sean Newell is clearly the only guy from the 2023 defensive staff who merited retention. Like, I don't think it's a debate with Roy Manning. I don't think it's a particularly close call when you consider how weak USC was, at linebackers and on the outside. I just don't think it's really one. I don't think it's a 50-50 ball. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's a coin flip or a jump ball. You have to get the caliber of coaching right first, and from those credentials and from an awareness of, hey, I'm going to be developed into an NFL quality player, something that you've alluded to, Tim. I'm going to get the best quality coaching. From that foundation, then you recruit, then you're able to sell the program in such a much better way than what we've seen the past 2 years with the previous regime.
Yeah, but Tackett Curtis, the guys you named, Domani Jackson, corner, right? And he's gone with Dante. And then you talk about Curtis, he's inside linebacker, so he was gone with Odom. So that was that. Boom, that's that. I liked what I saw from Braylon Shelby later in the season, coming along as a true freshman. I think the development was there. But I will say this, again, they had a decision to make. Who do we keep? And part of it also might have had to do with, they want a clean sweep of all those guys from Oklahoma that came over, right? Because Sean Newell didn't come over from Oklahoma. He came in from Michigan. Yep. So really, it's a clean sweep of the Grinch Oklahoma regime. They kind of swept them out. Sean Newell really wasn't really a part of that. I don't know if it really was as much Roy Manning this and that, or it was, who do we keep, Roy Manning, or do we keep Sean Newell? And they kept Sean Newell. And again, to be able to say that we've removed all of the Grinch, we've got, right or wrong, we're getting rid of everybody on that Grinch situation, and we're going to start over fresh and new. And again, Newell was, yes, he was under Grinch, for a couple of years, but he didn't come in with Grinch from Oklahoma like they saw before.
Some people have green juice for their power cleanse. This was Lincoln Riley's power cleanse, eliminating all of that Oklahoma stench, all those fats, all those empty carbs from this defensive coaching staff. And I think it was entirely the wise move to make. And
Jeff, you would have known that he grew a lot, got and gained weight, and was at 6'7" now. Because if you had watched our interview with him from 2 weeks ago, he actually kind of broke that here live with us on our show on that Friday, saying he was 6'7" and gained up to 320. I think he said he was. So yeah, you got to keep up, Jeff. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
And just a couple further points to extend on what you guys had brought up earlier with Henderson. He has developed, in addition to his attachment with Aaron Donald, which catches everybody's attention. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, two of the better developed defensive linemen from a rookie standpoint under his development. Henderson's this year with the Rams. And of course, anytime you're recruiting anybody in college football and they kind of catch a glimmer and are a bit blinded by something coming off your right hand, and it's called a Super Bowl ring. That certainly catches people's attention as well. So he won one of those, of course, with the Rams just a couple of years ago. And so that certainly can help. And just to, again, marry the development with the coaching, and to extend on Matt's point, if you are just heavy on recruiting and don't know what to do with those talents, then you are certainly Texas, welcome Texas circa 2010 to about 2021. That's what they were majored in for more than a decade.
And one more small thing. I mean, that when we're talking about him, he was also no slouch as a college player. He was a three-time, I think twice or three-time all ACC defensive end, that being Henderson. So he could talk about every facet of it. He played great ball in the ACC. He went on to the NFL with the Bengals, Matt, Cincinnati, I think, for 3 years. Then he went into coaching, coached with the Chargers, coached with the Rams. I mean, I think that although he has no recruiting experience, he can show that he's played at both levels at a high level, and that he's coached. He's coached he's briefly in college, but he's pushed mainly in the pros. And the pros, you think he's going to start name dropping, and I think these kids are going to be lining up for him. So I can't wait to see what he can do, particularly in the South.
Good stuff here each and every Monday with Matt Zemek and Tim Prangley from Trojans Wire. You can catch both of their written work there at Trojans Wire each and every day. Appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. You know that we deliver this show each and every Monday, Trojan Conquest Live. Matt and Tim get together on a regular basis to do call-in shows as well. All right. One Caleb Williams did not have the final season at USC that he anticipated, but he could rarely be faulted, although he certainly had probably the Notre Dame game was the nadir of his career to a certain sense. 29 touchdowns, 4 picks, an astounding 93-14 touchdown to pick ratio during his career with 27 rushing touchdowns. The Chicago Bears have the number 1 selection, and Caleb Williams is right there for the taking. And the Bears put into a unique situation where Justin Fields has shown to be an elite athlete, not necessarily an elite quarterback, and they have done little to develop around him. So the Bears have a decision to make whether they believe that Justin Fields is still their future, or they want to pull the trigger on Caleb Williams at number 1. You guys have any thoughts about that?
Well, first off, trying to predict what a bad NFL organization is going to do, it's tricky, because you're not thinking logically in that case. You're just trying to think, what would a bad org do? And we've already seen the Bears, hanging on to Matt Eberflus with Harbaugh, Vrabel, Belichick, Mike McDonald, all out there, Ben Johnson, but right there, 5 high-end coaching targets available, three who've proven themselves as NFL head coaches. Heck, throw Pete Carroll in the mix. I mean, I don't think Carroll's done. I don't think Pete Carroll has coached his last football game. More on him later. But you have this is an amazing NFL coaching carousel market. It's as stacked an NFL coaching carousel marketplace as I've ever seen. And the Bears are going to run it back with an entirely mediocre coach who did absolutely nothing of value. That's a bad org. And so, to me, all right, if you're going to come back with your same head coach, that would tell me you need to stick it out one more season with Justin Fields. You need to buy the groceries. You need to surround Justin Fields with the resources he needs to at least have a chance at success. Now, if you fired Eberflus and you tried to bring in Harbaugh or Belichick, Vrabel, that would tell me, okay, let's start fresh, new regime. Kind of like Lincoln Riley cleaning out the Oklahoma history on his defensive coaching staff. You start fresh and you take Caleb Williams as the foundation, building at number 1. So the Bears are already in between on this thing. They've already done something that suggests they should run it back with Justin Fields, but they might go with Caleb Williams with a retained head coach. And of course, if the retained head coach doesn't do anything with Caleb Williams next year, then you're going to fire him. And then Caleb Williams is going to have his second coach in 2 seasons in 2025. So, like, again, this is how a bad NFL organization thinks. And so trying to predict what a bad NFL org is going to do, it's fraught with peril, but it is what it is. So who knows what the Bears are actually going to do with that number 1 pick. So another thing in terms of Caleb Williams' NFL destination, so with Jared Mayo, not Mike Vrabel, going to the Patriots, that caught me off guard. I'm pretty agnostic right now in terms of what Caleb Williams' best NFL fit is going to be. The Washington Commanders are at number 2, and they've been linked to Ben Johnson, who might be the best pure offensive mind among the prime NFL head coaching candidates. So maybe going back to the DMV with Ben Johnson as the coach might be best, but like there are other things the Washington offense needs in order to be good. It's not just quarterback. There are other pieces there that need improvement. And then with Jared Mayo being the new coach in New England, I mean, people there in Foxborough say, he's like a young Bill Belichick. I mean, in terms of just maniacal attention to detail. And they think he's whip smart and that he could be a fantastic head coach. That's obviously why the Patriots just hired him and didn't go through a long vetting process with Vrabel or other candidates. But, it's still a mystery. Like, we don't know just how good Jared Mayo actually is as a head coach. So right now, I don't know. I mean, some obvious outside the box scenarios would, like the Miami Dolphins, trade Tua Tagovailoa to the Bears in exchange for the number 1 pick. A package deal of that nature, or with something again completely off the radar emerge. We don't know, but like right now, I'm pretty agnostic about where Caleb Williams' best fit would be. If Bill Belichick had stayed with the Patriots, I thought that was going to be the best fit for him because you have the defense in place in New England, and Caleb Williams would only have to score 20, 24 points a game to go, to win 10, 11 games per season. Given how good that Patriots defense is, Jared Mayo kind of makes me step back from that thought just because it's a blank slate there. We don't have a track record to go by. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all happens in the NFL draft. I know Tim and I at Trojans Wire, we're just hoping for something really splashy and interesting to happen to appease the page view gods.
Tim, your thoughts on Caleb Williams' legacy at USC?
I still see people, and I don't know what they're thinking. They have to separate the team that Caleb was on from Caleb Williams and his ability. He had no protection this year. People are talking. I see some people in the chat say that he's not going to be successful. These guys get picked over with a fine-tooth comb. They have scouts watching these guys going all the way back to the first time they step on campus. They interview everybody at that school to see what's this guy's character like, what's he like off the field, what's et cetera, et cetera. Caleb Williams on the field and off the field is like one of the best Trojans ever to grace our school, you guys. I don't know really what you guys would think negatively about when you think about Caleb Williams. The guy has elite arm talent. He has he's just like this escapability. His pocket presence is like uncanny, how he gets himself out of trouble. Now, yes, you can't do what you could do in college, right? In the pros, but it does, those skills do still translate. He still will be able to take a look, check, and take off if he needs to get 4 or 5, 6 yards in the NFL. The problem is everything speeds up, windows close, but they wouldn't talk about him as almost like an overwhelming number 1 pick if he had these severe flaws like some of you guys are trying to point out in the chat. So I appreciate you getting all of your thoughts and all of your analysis is always welcome here at this channel. I just can't agree with any of it. I think that he's going to go down as the best USC quarterback in my lifetime. There hasn't been anyone yet. You never know. Maybe Norm Moss is that guy, right? Who knows who's coming around the corner? But as of right now, he's a great Trojan. He's a great prospect. And these guys have, again, picked over him with a fine-tooth comb. And most of them are saying, hey, this is the number 1 guy.
Matt, anything from a legacy standpoint with Caleb Williams?
Well, the Heisman Trophy, that will be his legacy at USC. And of course, he wasn't able to build on that legacy in 2023, but that legacy is secure. And I don't think we should feel that 2023 in any way tarnished the legacy. And the one thing that really gets me is that some people think that, Caleb Williams was somehow selfish, or that he turned off his teammates. I remember late in the Washington game, he was sitting on the bench and people were microanalyzing, how he was just sitting on the sidelines, like he wasn't vociferously, clapping for USC players. Football and basketball are two very different things. In basketball, everything's very intimate. You're right there on the bench. It's a much more contained area. Football, there's a long bench and it's well behind the sideline and the playing field. What you do on a football bench should not be microanalyzed in terms of are you a good teammate? Are you a bad teammate? Basketball is a much more different thing because the bench is right there. You should be, giving players input if you're on the bench, telling them, to just because the action's 3, 4, 5 feet in front of you. There was just way too much couch armchair analysis of Caleb Williams' mindset. Look, he donates his Beats headphones and I think athletic apparel, various other things, not just to his USC football teammates, but to other USC athletic teams and programs, men and women. I mean, he was a loyal Trojan. He was a generous Trojan. He set a leadership example. And I think if people are trying to figure out, hey, why didn't USC play as well for Caleb Williams in 2023 as it could have or probably should have? One is just that the offensive line didn't measure up as well. I mean, we don't like saying that, but that's reality, that just the offensive line wasn't as good in 2023 without Andrew Voorhees, Brett Nealon, and Bobby Haskins. Those three guys were warriors, and USC really missed them this year. And then the other thing that I've pointed out in recent weeks after the Holiday Bowl is that Caleb Williams is a superstar. So it's just human nature to think that he's going to be Harry Houdini. He can wiggle out of trouble. He's going to save us. He's going to rescue a broken play if it happens. And so other players on the field are going to ball watch. They're going to be spectators. And then with Miller Moss, there was none of that. It was 10 guys saying, boy, we better do our jobs to help Miller Moss, our teammate. It wasn't so much that they respected Moss more than Caleb. It's that they realized they had to do their job to make the play work. And I think everyone at USC, particularly the offense, fell in love a little bit with the idea, oh, Caleb's going to save us. Caleb's going to figure something out. And that it led to the other 10 guys on the offense not being quite as dedicated to the task. And I don't think it was a conscious thing, but it's one of those things that's in the back of your mind. And then with Miller Moss, it was up front, we have to do our job perfectly and trust the game plan, trust Lincoln Riley's scheme to make sure everything happens just right. With Caleb Williams, there was just an awareness of, oh, he'll figure it out. And so it wasn't because Caleb Williams was a deficient leader. Caleb Williams was on the sideline in the Holiday Bowl. Let's remember that point.
Yeah.
That he could have just checked out. See ya, don't want to be ya. Could have just said, I'm out of here. That would have pointed to a fractured, frosty, some otherwise, deficient relationship with his teammates. But no, he was there. He was supporting Miller Moss. He was supporting his teammates. So the idea that there was some kind of poisoned, strained relationship between Caleb Williams and his USC teammates, that's the worst thing that I had to put up with. It's the worst thing that I saw in terms of online whispers and speculation covering this past USC season. It was absolute garbage, never had any merit, and it was grossly unfair to Caleb Williams and to his USC teammates, for that matter. A bad season is usually a bad season because players don't play as well as they need to, and that's where the conversation should begin and end with 2023. It has nothing to do with guys, secretly not liking Caleb Williams or distrusting Caleb Williams. that just turned me off from the moment that kind of whisper campaign began last season.
And I can also tell you, going back 2 basketball seasons, I go to most of the home games, almost all of them, and I saw Caleb Williams at a number of basketball games last year. So to say that he's not like, like getting the whole USC vibe kind of by himself, or he's not a team player, he is an SC guy. He remember also, who did he take to New York with him for the Heisman? He brought he said he honored his offensive line by saying, "You guys," because he knew these guys helped him to get to New York, so he took them with them to New York, which I think is an amazing testament to who he is as a teammate.
And shoot, if you just enjoy watching a flat out ball player that can just ball, and you aren't rooting for either side, but you want to see some of the most amazing plays from that position in the last generation in college football, Caleb Williams supplied and delivered many of those. Absolutely. Tim, we got a couple super chats coming in here. I believe we've got our buddy Gixxer Squid
There's
chiming in here. Matt, CW is a phenomenal quarterback. Love him. But in the transfer portal world, is he just an amazing stepmom? He transferred. I'd argue Miller is more USC.
Well, Gixxer, I mean, if you want to define how USC are you, how much pure Trojan are you? I mean, you can slice and dice that one in a lot of different ways. I mean, Caleb Williams transferred because Lincoln Riley was his head coach. And I mean, he knew that Lincoln Riley, as gifted a play caller as we've seen in recent times, was obviously the best thing for his career. I think we should look at Caleb Williams this way. Okay, so he went to Oklahoma and then he transferred to USC. So maybe you're not as pure blood USC as Miller Moss. But once Caleb Williams came to USC, he gave USC everything he had. I think that's all we need to say on that point.
Absolutely.
I would say that OJ Simpson didn't come here first, but maybe we'll say that for a different conversation. All right, let's move on.
But Gixxer, thanks for the super chat.
Yes, thank you for that. We also have Scooby Pre. Thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate you being here, Scooby. Even if you've got nothing to say, thank you for the contribution and for being here. Your presence is known. And talk about that transfer of Caleb Williams from Oklahoma to USC. Obviously, he brought his buddy with him, and that was much anticipated at the time. Mario Williams would follow Caleb Williams from Norman to Los Angeles. It took a few weeks, but lo and behold, he did. And had a productive season to start out his career at Oklahoma, came to USC, and I got to say that did not turn out to be the game changer that many thought he would be. He has moved on to and made his decision to go to Tulane, of all places. There's an obvious connection there. One of Lincoln Riley's worst moments and the team's during his short tenure at USC. So that's where Mario Williams made his intentions known just today.
Oh, so he's going to Tulane? I missed that. Sorry. Go ahead. Well, that's interesting because he had the no, is it too soon? He had to play the game for Tulane. So I mean, why not transfer, right? Too soon? It's too soon. That's terrible. Sorry, I take it back.
I find it fascinating, though, that he transfers to Tulane after Willie Fritz leaves. He's going to first-year head coach John Sumrall, who came from Troy, to take the Tulane vacancy. So interesting timing. Like if you were going to hop on the Tulane roster, you'd think that Mario Williams would have done it a year ago, but he does it this year. But again, to each his own, and he's obviously going to get a ton of playing time. He'll get a ton of opportunity to play. It's a lot like Malachi Nelson at Boise State. I'm not focused on the NIL money at Miami. I want to play, and I don't want to spring battle with another quarterback. I want to go to a school where I know I'm going to be the guy, won't have to worry about a QB duel in the spring. That's what Malachi Nelson wanted. It seems that that's what Mario Williams wants. You know, and USC has Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson. Like this receiver room is stacked, and those guys showed out in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville. So Mario Williams did the math and says, you know, at Tulane, I'm going to get more catches, more touches, more opportunities. In terms of other transfer news, you know, we also had Dorian Singer transferring to Utah. And what a fascinating story that is. So we have a guy who's going from Arizona to USC to Utah. And yet, of course, going from USC to Utah, like that would have been, you know, you're the devil. You're a traitor of the highest order if that happened a year ago, because Singer would have been playing against USC in the Pac-12. But now doesn't sting as much because Utah is going to be over in the Big 12. And it brings us into really the other, I think, big topic we need to be talking about. And that is, you know, as USC and Washington go into the Big 10, how much will Jed Fish's move to Washington affect not just the Washington roster, but the Arizona roster? And how much retention will Arizona be able to achieve on its roster? And how much many of those players are going to go up to Seattle? And of course, USC plays Washington next year. I believe it's November 2nd at Husky Stadium. So, you know, that's a definite USC news story. You know, I mean, it's definitely of interest to USC and its fans. How will Washington's roster be retooled under Jed Fish? And of course, in order to figure out that equation in terms of the pipeline from Tucson to Seattle, that depends on who Arizona hires as its head coach. And I've heard, you know, Brent Brennan, coach at San Jose State, being a candidate. But here's the scenario I'm interested in. You know, Arizona has an offensive coordinator. His name is Brennan Carroll. He has a dad. He has a dad who's not, in my mind, finished coaching. I don't think his dad has coached his last football game on this earth. I think he wants to make a go of it somewhere else. And if Brennan Carroll's dad does want to coach again, and if he wants to coach at Arizona with his son, he's not going to have to play USC now that Arizona is in the Big 12. So Pete Carroll and Brennan Carroll at Arizona, that's a scenario I'm fascinated in. You know, and I get it. I know that Pete Carroll wants to coach again in the NFL, but if there is a college coaching stop that makes sense for Pete Carroll, it is Arizona. And of course, you know, he can play golf, or, you know, he can do hiking, you know, motorbiking, whatever it is he likes to do in his spare time in those rolling hills of Tucson and in the back desert back roads. Like that feels like a Pete Carroll kind of place, you know, to spend your off season. And of course, he has his son there. So if there is a college coaching stop, which does make sense for Peter Clay Carroll, it's Tucson, Arizona. And that would certainly, if that happens, and I don't think it's likely, all right, not trying to say this is going to happen. I wouldn't predict it. But if Arizona can figure out a way to make that happen, that would be the kind of hire that would halt an exodus from Tucson to Seattle. A lot of players would say, okay, I could follow Jed Fish, but that guy left us in the lurch just when we were, you know, set to have a great 2024 season at Arizona. No, I'm going to stay in Tucson and play for Pete Carroll. Like that's a name where you say, would I leave the opportunity to play for Jed Fish in favor of this guy, Pete Carroll? Yeah, you would turn down Jed Fish to play for Pete Carroll. I'm not sure you would turn down Jed Fish to play for Brent Brennan, even though he's a good coach. Like, even though every college football insider knows that Brent Brennan can really coach, and they did an amazing job with San Jose State. You put Brent Brennan up against Pete Carroll. That's not a knock against Brent Brennan. It's just that Pete Carroll is Pete Carroll, and that status, that cachet might matter. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Arizona does with its hire. Probably needs to act sooner rather than later to halt that exodus from Tucson to Seattle.
I certainly don't know.
Oh,
I was just going to say, I certainly don't know if that's going to come to fruition. But what I do know is that Tim needs to drop more OJ references, because that certainly stirred up the chat. That brought all sorts of people to the forefront with all
Yeah,
sorts of.
that's why I stopped as soon as I started, because I just
No,
knew
no.
I realized we have a lot of not USC fans that
Many of them are legitimate comments, though.
Which we
many
are
of them
very.
The ones that I saw were pretty complimentary. I've not been scrolling through them. I'm only looking at 3 or 4. But the one thing I will say is that depending on how the flow of the offseason goes, and with the transfer portal and recruiting always humming, we have less breaks where we need to go to the nostalgic and go to yesteryear. But hey, I am up for talking one Oriental James Simpson at any point. We can push aside all of the obvious and just stick to the career, because he's the first dude that I ever saw on a football field where I was like, who's that guy? What's that? That's amazing. And I remember being at a Thanksgiving dinner when I didn't know what a first down was. I knew nothing. I was like 6 years old. And the family that we were partaking with, the dad said, as OJ was ripping somebody up for 250 yards, said that's the greatest football player on earth. And that was my introduction to football. That's my first memory of football.
You just said OJ ripping someone. I can't.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I tried to make a quick joke about someone that didn't start at USC. So if you separate OJ, the OJ who was on the field, Heisman Trophy winner, right, coming from San Francisco Community College and coming to USC, didn't start at USC. Does that mean he's not less of a Trojan? I started to make that joke, and I thought probably should pull back. So I tried to yank it back, but clearly not fast enough, because here we go. But you said he ripped. So okay, hey, so going back to what Matt was talking
OJ gained at 250 yards against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. Yes.
So going back to what Matt said regarding the Arizona situation, Pete Carroll, everybody else, I don't think he's ever going to coach college again. And I think that's the Arizona Arizona resident in you saying he's going, because if he was coming inward, he'd come to the South Bay where he has a house. He loved Manhattan Beach. He's going to come here. He's going to be sipping drinks with all the guys, playing beach volleyball, goofing around, playing basketball, and probably coaching the Chargers if he was going to do anything as far as coaching concerned. I wouldn't wish the Spanos family on anybody, but I mean, I think if anyone's going to do it, Pete Carroll might take that swan song, live in Southern California, sit back and be in Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, South Bay, just relaxing, having a good time. And then the other part is Arizona. You're talking about what's going to happen to Arizona. Arizona going over to the Big 12. Losing Jed Fish was probably the only reason why Tetrell McMillan was going to stay there, because you have him and his classmate from Servite, and Fafita was the quarterback at Servite and at Arizona. Now you look at a weird situation. You just recently had Will Rogers decommit, right, from Washington because the Boar moving. Does that really open up the door for Fafita to come up and bring, obviously, McMillan with him? So we'll stay tuned on that one, but I think that's probably a much more likely possibility to happen.
All right. I believe we also have a new member to the channel. In addition to, we've got Danny Torres, who's a new member. Danny, we appreciate so much you joining us here at the Voice of College Football USC. Enjoy. You've got probably a good, oh my goodness, you've got, I'm going to guesstimate about 4 to 5 hours of bonus content to go through. So you've got quite a bit to go through there, Danny, but we appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for the support. Welcome aboard. And also Slap Happy. Don't think we got to that one. Slap Happy showing up as always. Appreciate you being here. Miller is USC 100.
There's no doubt. Yeah. His declaration when he said that, I don't care who comes in the spring, I'm staying. That right there, I mean, that told you. Sitting behind Caleb for 2 years, he could have gone to a number of schools the last couple of years and been playing almost instantly as well. So the fact that he's still here at USC, that he was such a huge viable backup, the past couple of years, and now he's probably going to he's sliding into the starting role in 24. Miller Moss, his family's 100% SC. He's 100% SC. And that's not to diminish for anyone else. I'm not one of those guys to diminish anybody who's in the USC family, but for sure, this is one guy who made it very clear that USC was a very special place to him.
USC fans, as you continue to get acclimated to the Big Ten, keep in mind that you will see Tim and I over on the main channel now every Friday night at 7 Eastern and 4 Pacific for the Big Ten Live Show. So we'll be taking your calls on the Big Ten Live Show, Tim and myself, every Friday. So make it on back here. Again, that's on the main channel, the Big Ten Live Show, that we are moving from Mondays to Fridays. So we'll see you then.
And then really quickly, since we have 230 of you guys on here, thank you all so much for being here. So I'm guessing with 230, half the people usually watching are subscribed, half the people are not subscribed, returners, but aren't subscribed to the channel. Please, if you could, it would really mean a lot to us. We're trying to get to 5,000. We're within 100. So literally, if that half here that probably are not subscribed, go ahead and click that in that arrow, click that little subscribe box and hit and subscribe to the channel. We can hit the 5,000 tonight. So appreciate everybody being here. As always, I talk to Matt, I talk to Mark about all the time. Just your overwhelming support for this channel means so much to all of us. We're all Trojans here or college football fans. I know a number of you guys aren't SC fans, but if you want content, we're gonna put out USC content every single day. Make sure you are subscribing to us. And again, the easiest way, just click that little arrow pointing to it, just that little box there, and hit the notification bell so you know when we do go live.
It's also good to note, while we've got more people here than we have the entire hour, that you've probably missed most of the show. So all you have to do is hang in right here. You can go all the way back. You can watch what you missed. You don't need to just say, hey, shoot, I missed the show. I only caught the last 5 minutes. Nope. Just go back and catch the entire show from start to finish.
And wait. Why is sorry, here we go. And it's Scooby with another super chat. Thank you, Scooby. Last time, I guess you gave him a hard time, Mark, for not leaving a message. Now he left a message for you. You want to go and read it?
Scooby says, both are great, but the jersey around the neck wasn't respectful, and it certainly wasn't cool. The team gave up on Caleb.
Not sure what you mean by that. Sorry.
Both are great. So I don't know what was the previous comment made. But
Scooby, I would simply say that the 2023 USC football team was soft. And I don't think Caleb Williams made it that way. I think that this was just a soft team generally, got punched in the mouth, didn't have good enough coaching, lost some key pieces on the offensive line, and it snowballed. I think that's the way we should remember the 2023 Trojans. I mean, not including the Holiday Bowl, like that was a separate deal, but in the 12 regular season games, it was a soft team. And that doesn't mean that guys weren't playing for Caleb Williams. It means that they just didn't measure up.
And if anybody watched USC in 23 and 24 and saw how much winning, and I mean just winning, not him winning, I mean his team winning, meant to Caleb Williams, and you weren't there to support him or you wouldn't rally behind him, that says more about them than it does about Caleb. That in my book, for sure. Also, one more
topic. Go ahead.
Well, so we got Scooby joining as well. So
thank you.
We could debate that. We could keep debating that Caleb thing. And also, you guys, the members, I'm gonna put a poll up asking what you guys want to see from us as far as extra content. I know that Matt and Mark are doing the videos, but we could do other things. We could do a stream only. There's also, Mark, there's an option where the people that are members get early access to videos. So that as well, they get them right away for the schedule. We usually, guys will have videos, we'll schedule them in advance, but if you are a member, you'll get them immediately.
And also keep in mind that Matt and I get together like we did this entire last off season. And as we mentioned, 3 segments that we posted this week, Matt does an amazing job coming up with topics. I got to say that, but we would love to hear your topics. You can make your suggestions, your requests, and Matt and I will tackle your requests. So bring
absolutely them on. Yes. And I just want to say, Adam, Tim's going to be my baseball correspondent at Trojans Wire, but that's on the writing side. This is not the voice of college baseball.
Mark won't let us do baseball, no.
Tim will be writing about USC baseball for Trojans Wire. That's where you can get your baseball fix from Mr. Prangley.
And then maybe a member thing, Matt. We can do a members for baseball. So if you're a member, maybe we'll do a baseball show for members. How about that?
You can roll out a plan, Tim, if you'd like. There's one other topic we haven't touched on, and it's because we talked about this, on last week's show. Jim Leonard going to Colorado. There was a lot of smoke. Jim Leonard joining Coach Prime at Colorado with the Arizona job open. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Washington or Arizona have their defensive coordinator spots filled right now. That certainly reduces the odds that Jim Leonard would go to Colorado. And Alabama, the minor detail, that little program in Tuscaloosa can use a defensive coordinator for Kalen DeVore. So, like, if Jim Leonard takes Colorado in this landscape, in this context, like that would be like two 16 seeds beating two number 1 seeds on the same day in the NCAA tournament. Like that would be like a Browns-Lions Super Bowl. Like that would just be the mother of all shockers. So one would think that the Jim Leonard Coach Prime marriage rumors are dying out. So I think we can put that one pretty much to bed. But maybe Jim Leonard has a surprise in store for us. One thing worth noting in terms of Jim Leonard maybe circling back to a college defensive coordinator job, after seeing the Green Bay Packers beat the Dallas Cowboys, maybe Joe Barry's job has been secured for another year in Green Bay. Don't know, but like his odds of staying on Matt LaFleur's staff are obviously better. So Jim Leonard, Mr. Wisconsin, if he was holding out for that Packer defensive coordinator job, not as much of a certainty now that there will be a vacancy for that spot, which could kick Jim Leonard to the college ranks. And I can't imagine that he's going to be a Brett Bielema analyst for 2 years running. One would think that Jim Leonard wants his hands on a defensive coordinator job for 2024 in some location.
Trojan Conquest Live, folks. We appreciate you being here. Check out Matt and Tim's work at Trojan's Wire each and every day. And our next show here at the Voice of College Football, listen to this one. It's typically on Tuesday, 5:30 Eastern is the Iowa Hawkeyes live show, but you will see me bright and early, just as I did it this morning with the 10 a.m. Eastern time, Michigan special edition live with all the early entries to the NFL draft and the Jim Harbaugh news. We're going live at 10 a.m. Eastern on the main channel with our 1 through 133 rankings. We are ranking all the teams 1 through 133 for 2023. Delivering our final rankings here at the Voice of College Football, based, of course, on resume.
Well, that's how we do it. The right way.
Yeah. And one more last call for action for you guys. If you're out there still, I know you guys are, hey, get us to 5,000. Stop me hearing me say this, but gosh dang it. If you guys enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Okay. Because 5,000 is less than maybe it's like 70 away right now. So if you're out there, you haven't subscribed, do us a big favor, subscribe and hit that like button. Appreciate it.
Get us to 5,000 tonight, and Tim will give you 1 week off of badgering you for anything, and then we'll badger you for 6,000 the next week. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. We will see you next Monday. And again, in the meantime, it's Trojan's Wire every day, and it's our Big Ten live show coming up Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern over on the main channel. We will see you next time.